Hey everybody. So this is going to be the first really kind of focused video that I've made, and sort of spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what video would be the best to start with, and I just kept thinking that the best would be to outline our experience, Caitlin and I's experience with moving to Hawaii. And I thought this would be ideal to begin with, simply because if you're going to be doing it from the mainland, you're probably going to be a little bit nervous, and there's a lot that you have to do. And I feel like just kind of giving you an idea of our experience and our journey to the Big Island, it might just kind of catch some things you might have forgotten. It might put your mind at ease for what's to come. And I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes so that it's not too long. If you have questions, please leave a comment below, something that I can address at a later time. Now, to get things going, this is going to be a travel experience that's based during the pandemic. Things are changing already. I think it's 4 days from now, the mandates for masks are going to be lifted. And so these things that we're going to be talking about may not actually apply so much when you travel. But needless to say, it made things more difficult for us. So to get things going, we started preparing for our move. We got here, I think it was the 20th of January 2022. However, we started preparing to move here almost an entire year before we actually did. We purchased our land remotely, and so the first thing you've got to do before you move to the Big Island is simplify your life, kind of get rid of the extra fat that's coming with you. So this is going to be selling clothes, furniture, things that you just aren't worth it to bring with you. Now keep in mind the cost of different things here is pretty significant. Everything just is more expensive, as you're probably aware. But a shipping container is an ideal way to bring certain things. Now, we have not actually done this ourselves. The way that we did it is we actually took a couple of trips to our acre in HPP before we actually made the final move here. And every time we came, we brought as much as we could with carry-ons, things like that. So to kind of get things going, what simplifying your life kind of looks like is using your resources to get rid of things. So if you have family members, you might try to see if they can buy something off of you, cheap furniture, desks, big items like that, because you're probably not going to want to bring them with you, and it's just safer and it feels easier to sell it to family, somebody you trust. Caitlin and I actually used Facebook Market, and in the beginning we were a little gun shy about doing it, but it's very easy. Just make sure you pick a location that's public. Be quick to respond. I feel like our fastest things that we sold were when we just responded quickly. We took cash and Venmo. I think that's the best way to do it. Now, for the bigger items that you have to sell or ship, would be your cars. We had two vehicles, a Jeep and a Camry, and the cost of shipping them here was pretty high. Now, one thing that we really had trouble figuring out was whether or not to ship our cars or sell them, purchase on the Big Island. And what we ended up doing was selling the two main vehicles that we had used and purchasing an older Toyota Tacoma, the truck. We wanted to have the ability to carry heavy objects, construction materials, things like that. We didn't have a truck at the time, so we knew we were going to want a truck. We just didn't know if we wanted to wait until we came to the Big Island. And I think what made us kind of pull the trigger was, if you purchase from people on the Big Island, you're probably going to want to do it from a dealership, but in general your options are very limited because it is an island. So my recommendation is to maybe try to see the deals around you. I would recommend a Toyota vehicle because so many vehicles here are Toyota, and if you have a part or a problem, it probably would just be cheaper to replace it having a Toyota vehicle. Tacomas are actually, you'll see them everywhere. They are easily the number one truck that you're going to see. That is why we purchased a Tacoma, in case things broke. It cost us $3,000 to ship our Toyota Tacoma from Kansas to Hawaii, and it took about a month to get here. So if this is something that you're going to do, a month is about the time that you should expect. That may change. It just depends on the shipping agency. If I remember what company we used, I'll let you know. I think it was Hawaii Travel. No. I'll have to figure it out later. Anyway, that is a big thing you'll have to do, and I probably would recommend finding something that has as minimal amount of rust as possible, because if you're not going to have a garage like we don't, then you're exposing your vehicle to moisture and rust if you're going to be moving to the Hilo side of Big Island, where it definitely rains a lot. If you're going to be moving to the Kona side of the island, it's a lot drier. You really just won't have as much of a trouble with rust, so keep that in mind. Now, the flight. We actually booked our flight months in advance, and this is obviously to save. Look for deals. Southwest Airlines was just starting to fly to Hawaii, so the tickets were a lot cheaper. They have two big travel bag for free per person, so you can really kind of utilize this benefit to save some money, carry big items. For us, what I did is I went to like Goodwill, things like that, places like that, and purchased old travel bags. They were ugly. One was like a giraffe print, but it was only 20 bucks. I knew I was going to throw it away when I got here, so the cost of the bag was worth it to me, because I was able to put so much stuff in there and bring it with me, and just chuck the bag when I got here. I didn't care, didn't want it. I mean, it was old and gross. Now, we traveled during a period of time with COVID, so you had to provide a negative test from a trusted COVID testing laboratory. There's only a few that were approved, or have a vaccine card. We were not vaccinated at the time when we traveled, and we didn't get our test results in time for our plane because they were so behind. So basically, this creates a problem down the road, but that's one of those things I think might change if you're going to be traveling, or moving here even, a week from now. I think things are going to be significantly different. A couple of things. When you arrive here, you're going to want to do a couple of things for sure. You're going to want to make sure that you reserve a rental vehicle. This is because when you arrive here, you're most likely going to be arriving late. These flights are just so long. We went from Kansas. I think we left at 6 a.m. in Kansas. We had one layover in Vegas, I believe, but we got here probably around 8 to 11 p.m. I can't remember now, but it's a late arrival. I just don't think there's any way around it if you're moving from the mainland. So you're going to want to go ahead and rent a vehicle, or reserve it, I should say, ahead of schedule, because when you get here late, you're going to be tired. You're going to be kind of, just worn out. The good news is that the airport, if you fly into the Kona side like we did, it's, Kona or Hilo. Both are extremely simple, open, breezy airports. The staff is friendly, so you'll be tired, you might be stressed out, but the good news is that the airport is really just kind of laid back. So that's good. They have shuttles coming from the Kona one. When you reserve a vehicle, you're going to have to find the shuttle that takes you to the proper company. So we used Alamo Rental. Yeah, Alamo. And no reason in particular, just had used them before. They were really great. So that, we just kind of went back to them. Now, you have to take the shuttle that takes you to the right place. They have like 15-minute loops. So if you don't see one right away, you might just hang out. You can even ask the staff. They usually know. Caitlin, what we did is Caitlin grabbed the bags and just kind of, found a place to sit. I went to the rental vehicle place. Now here's a problem that I don't expect most people during post-COVID to experience, but because we did not have a negative test and we were not vaccinated, when we went to the rental vehicle place, they would actually, we reserved the vehicle, they just would not allow us to get the vehicle. No rental place would have let us take a vehicle because we did not have proof that we were not infected with COVID. And this was probably one of the scariest parts, for sure, because we were basically stuck at this airport. So this leads me to the next part. If you do find yourself in this situation where you can't get a rental vehicle that night, or you didn't prepare, you can use, Uber or Lyft. We used Lyft. Uber does work on the Big Island, but it just seems like Lyft is predominantly used by the driver, so I would recommend using that app. Even when we talked to the driver, he mentioned that Lyft takes less money from the pocket of the driver, so you'll find that they'll probably use that more. We rented an Airbnb. So this is your second task. The first was rent a vehicle ahead of schedule. The second will be get an Airbnb. They are very popular. You're not going to want to get a hotel. They're just so expensive. It'll save you a little bit of money. I think it was about $300 for the Airbnb, and you're going to be probably finding one in a place called Kailua Kona. Kailua Kona. This is because it's about 15 minutes from the airport. This is going to be just like your average household that has a place. There's other places around there, but this one's the one to go to. It's just got better options and it's close. So you're going to be tired, late, and every time we've had to do this, we've done it in Kailua Kona, and the people are great. Do it ahead of schedule because, man, those things just fill up. You don't want to get stuck eating a $500 Airbnb because you procrastinated on this one. So you got to do it. Do it ahead of schedule. We took our Lyft to the Airbnb. It was great. Now, the next morning, we woke up and we were ready to go to our land. Because we could not use our rental vehicle as we had planned, we had to get a taxi. I think it was about $250 to go from Kailua Kona to our land on the other side of the island. If you have a rental vehicle, lucky you. If you do, there's 3 ways you can get to the Hilo side. 2 ways will take you along the coast. 1 will take you across Old Saddle. This is just straight through the middle. This is the one I recommend. Maybe not the most scenic route, but it's a little bit easier and saves you some time. You can do the coast stuff later. You just got a lot going on your plate. Do what you want to do, but Old Saddle is probably the way you'll go. To get across the island, we actually got a plain old taxi service. Just Googled it. We were kind of freaking out because we didn't really have a lot of options, and a lot of drivers were not willing to go from one side of the island to the other, which is only 3 hours, so it's not a big commute. But a lot of the drivers like to stay on the Kona side because the tourists and the business is just better. But the taxi service, and we managed to get a nice minivan taxi service, and it was great. $250 I think was about how much we paid, so not too bad. If you have a rental car, it's just better. We got to our land, and I'm sorry, we did not. We went to the place to pick up our vehicle. Forgot about that. So when you ship your vehicle, you're going to get an address from the company where you'll go to pick up your vehicle. It was shocking because it was so laid back. So it's just a guy under a canopy. He had all these vehicles. We gave him the ID. There was our truck, and we popped in. And at that point, we really just kind of let our hair down because we were in control again. Having a vehicle to go where we needed to be, and stopping where we needed to be, got all of our luggage, not relying on people so much. It's at this point that you really kind of just breathe easy. A lot of the things that you'll notice as you're going through all of this is that Hawaii is a lot simpler. The people, the interactions, and things like that, they have some hard lines they draw, but ultimately you just don't have to worry about them being a difficult. We came from Kansas, and God, everything was terrible. DMV, travel, you name it, it was probably slow and frustrating, but here things move faster, people are friendly, they seem like they are happy here, and it kind of reflects in the the little transactions you have to go through. So do want to let you know that that's a good thing. Once we got our truck, we drove to our land, and again, we actually purchased land in Hawaiian Paradise Park, HPP, and it's just 1 acre. We our hand clearing it, and so when we pulled up, I mean, it was just cause for celebration. Let me see. I guess the main thing in closing is just prepare. I mean, you almost can't prepare enough. Simplify your life. So really see what is valuable to you. You know, things like art and whatnot, unless you really need it. I mean, and keep in mind, you can even leave stuff if you can rent a storage unit somewhere back home. You can maybe kind of piecemeal it, meaning multiple trips before you actually move to kind of make things easier. You can acclimate more, because it is a big difference moving from, well, basically, unless you move from California or Florida. I think this is probably a different world to you, just like it was for me and Caitlin. But simplify your life. You know, figure out what you need. Don't be afraid to communicate with family. They were a huge resource for Caitlin and I, for selling stuff. And one of our family members actually had stayed on the Big Island for a little while, so just kind of checking in with her and asking questions. Um, your biggest things you're gonna have to prepare for are your plane, your rental car, most likely, and the Airbnb. I think those are probably the biggest things that you want to do like 1 month in advance, for everything. I think that's about how much time every single organization needed. So the tickets were the best price a month early. The rental car company didn't need to do anything until a month early. Airbnb, you could maybe do that out a little bit further. That would probably be the only thing, because they will book out so far in advance. I mean, months and months for good Airbnbs. They're on lockdown with tourism being such a big part over there. Again, that's in Kailua Kona. That's where you're probably going to want to look. Lyft is the main source of travel if you need to do something like that, like a little in between where you don't have your rental car yet. But if you do have a rental car, again, it's great. But yeah, it's a lot. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I really tried to keep this short, and I'm sure I could dive into every single part of this story in greater detail and freak you out a little. But ultimately, what I'm going to say is that I always expected kind of difficult things to happen, but I want you to expect that or know that it's actually a little bit easier than you might expect. Um, I think I'm gonna maybe go ahead and go through these parts again in a different video and just kind of dissect them. But this is the gist. And with that being said, y'all have a good one. Be safe out there.